For years, my sister and I have harbored a bitter silence, born from a past that still casts a shadow over my life. Now, on the brink of my wedding, my parents had decided it's the perfect time to force a reconciliation by inviting her to my bridal shower. They assume, 6 years later, we can just move past the incident that tore us apart, as if nothing ever happened. Our rivalry was fierce since childhood. I'm now 28, and she's 26, but it seems the dynamics that defined our relationship in our younger years never faded. My parents didn't discourage our sibling rivalry. If anything, they fueled it. In retrospect, I think they believed some level of competition was healthy. Maybe they thought it would push us to be our best selves, but the reality was far more complex. Instead of fostering a bond, they fed a fire of jealousy and resentment that only intensified with time. By the time we reached high school, my sister and I were like strangers sharing a house. When I left for college, I could only feel relief. Being away from her felt like a breath of fresh air. My life felt like it was finally mine. Shortly after graduation, I began dating a wonderful guy I'd been friends with for years. We moved in together and it felt like a dream come true. Then one weekend, I decided to introduce him to my parents. My sister, coincidentally, was also home that weekend, and her response was as venomous as ever. The tension in the air was tangible. My sister's expression said it all. She resented every bit of happiness I had. Throughout the evening, she fixated on my boyfriend, blatantly flirting with him as if I weren't there. She seemed determined to provoke me. As my frustration grew, I felt myself reach a breaking point. When I finally snapped and confronted her, she looked me in the eye, smugly declared that he deserved better, and went on to make digs about my life that hit deep. She made herself out to be some prize, some better alternative for him. We exchanged heated words, but things took a turn when she lunged at me, pulling my hair and slapping me. The fight was so intense that my parents and my boyfriend had to physically separate us. The experience left me emotionally and physically drained, and from that point on, I decided I was done. I told my parents I wanted nothing more to do with her, and that was that. For 6 years, my sister and I have not spoken, a decision I've never regretted. This estrangement was never a secret, and my parents knew the details of the incident. So when they brought her unannounced to my bridal shower, it was a slap in the face. My parents expected me to just let it go, claiming we'd both grown up and should be able to reconcile. But they refused to understand the depth of the betrayal I felt. After years of living in peace without my sister in my life, I wasn't prepared to reopen those wounds. I asked them to leave, and my sister, visibly shaken by the confrontation, left without protest. After the bridal shower, my parents reached out, blaming me for the fact that my sister lost a job opportunity with my aunt. They said my anger was ruining her life. But they didn't understand. This wasn't just about a fight from years ago. It was about years of feeling diminished, insulted, and betrayed. After my parents insisted on taking her side, I made the difficult decision to block them, at least for now. Just when I thought the drama was behind me, my sister showed up, alone, and unexpectedly apologized. She explained that she regretted everything and had harbored resentment for years, a resentment she wished she could have resolved sooner. Her apology seemed genuine, and I could see she had reflected deeply on her actions. That night, as she walked away, I realized that maybe it was time to let the anger go, not for her sake, but for mine. And so, for the first time in years, I felt a small sense of peace. After my sister's apology, a strange calm settled over me. I still had reservations, but seeing her vulnerability softened my anger. My fiancé and I talked for hours that night about forgiveness, about family, and what it means to really let go of old pain. With the wedding only a few weeks away, I wondered if forgiving her might be the best gift I could give to myself as I started this new chapter. Despite my feelings, I decided to unblock her. It didn't mean I was fully ready to accept her back into my life, but it was a small step, one that left the door slightly ajar. Then came the day of the wedding, the day I had been dreaming of for years. I was surrounded by friends, family, and the man I loved. My parents, however, weren't there. Shortly after the bridal shower incident, they had sent me a message expressing their disappointment in me, accusing me of making a big deal out of past grievances and of demonizing them unfairly. They even hinted that my estrangement from my sister was somehow their burden to bear, as if my hurt feelings were a personal attack against them. In their message, they said they needed time off from family drama and wouldn't attend my wedding. In a way, their absence was painful, but it also brought a sense of relief. The morning of the wedding, as I was preparing for the ceremony, I received a message from my sister. She was already at the venue, sitting in the back row. She said, not wanting to intrude, but wanting to support me. At that moment, I realized that this was the sister I'd wanted for so many years, one who respected my boundaries, but still wanted to show up for me. Taking a deep breath, I replied and told her I'd love for her to be seated among family. She accepted the invitation with gratitude, and when I finally walked down the aisle, I saw her sitting with my friends, smiling warmly, cheering me on. The ceremony was everything I had dreamed of. With my sister quietly in the background, I felt like I had finally reclaimed the family relationship I'd lost so long ago. Her presence was a reminder of how far we had come, and as we shared glances across the room, I felt hope that perhaps we could mend what was broken. At the reception, she approached me once more, and we exchanged a few words, laughing over our childhood memories, sharing lighthearted stories of simpler times. For the first time in years, I looked at her and didn't see a rival or a painful reminder of the past. I saw someone who was trying, in her own way, to heal. And it felt good. But as much as I wanted to believe in this new beginning, I couldn't ignore the unresolved issues with my parents. They had been so invested in my sister and me reconciling that they had pushed their own needs and expectations on us, without considering the emotional turmoil it caused. Their absence at the wedding was a reminder of the conditional love they had shown over the years, a love based on their image and expectations, rather than who we truly were as individuals. It hurt to think that my parents could miss such a monumental day in my life because of pride or misplaced frustration. Still, I realized that for once I was in control of the narrative. I could choose to let their decisions define my happiness, or I could move forward without waiting for their validation. In a way, their absence freed me to create my own definition of family, one that wasn't bound by old expectations. After the wedding, my husband and I decided to enjoy the beginning of our new life together without any family drama. We set off on a honeymoon and left behind all the complications, determined to start our marriage on a positive, drama-free note. During our trip, I had time to reflect on the changes in my life, the relationships I had left behind, and the new ones I was nurturing. I came to the realization that my sister had taken responsibility for her actions in a way my parents never had, and while I didn't fully trust her yet, I felt a glimmer of hope. Returning home, I found a sense of clarity and closure. I decided to keep communication open with my sister, setting boundaries to protect the peace I had worked so hard to build. And as for my parents, I sent them a message explaining that I was open to reconciliation, but only if they acknowledged the ways they had contributed to our family conflicts. It wasn't a demand for an apology, but a request for understanding, a desire for them to see me, not as a part of their expectations, but as a person with her own feelings, boundaries, and life. For now, I don't know if my parents will respond. They may never accept the role they played in our complicated family dynamic. But that's okay. In the absence of their approval, I've found my own strength. I've created a life filled with love, with friends who feel like family, and a sister who, for the first time, seems genuinely interested in making amends. So here I am, beginning this new chapter with a heart that feels lighter, a mind that feels clearer, and a sense of peace I've longed for all my life. I don't know what the future holds for my relationships with my parents or my sister, but I do know that I'm finally free from the bitterness that once defined me. I'm ready to live fully and freely, embracing the life I have with the people who truly care about me. And in the end, that's all I could ever ask for.